Right, so we're still within the transition iteration, and we're now moving into what's referred to as migration planning. And this is where we begin to introduce some of the project management techniques to work out time, effort, and cost to implement some of the suggestions that we've put forward. All right, so let's work through our ADM again. Once again, they're a very special technique which we've repeated through this course on how you draw the ADM, introduced in Module 1. So what we have is right down the bottom here, phase A, B, C, D. We're now dealing with phase E and F here. And at this section here is where we deal with the transition iteration. And now we're moving into phase F, which is all to do with migration planning. Now, just to reiterate, at this point here, at phase E, is where we introduce the solution architecture discipline, because it's opportunities and solutions. You're now looking for actual solutions that exist in the market. You're looking for vendors. You're looking for solution providers. You might be able to outsource some of your requirements out to an external party. All of that you're beginning to identify there. And obviously, your solution architects have a better and a deeper understanding of that space around how certain solutions can solve your problems. As we move now into phase F, which is your migration planning, now is when you introduce your project manager, your project management discipline. You've obviously got a rough idea of the sequence of events that need to occur coming out of your opportunities and solutions. You've addressed risk and those aspects. Now we need to put all of that into the project management discipline and start to look at time, effort, and cost and resources required to deliver that. And this is where an architectural discipline or an enterprise architect is not actually a good project manager. They're really quite separate disciplines, and never try and be both is my recommendation to you. You need a very specific project management discipline and a very specific architecture discipline that actually counterintuitive, and there's a healthy tension that exists between those two disciplines as well. So within the phase F, there's a variety of outputs that you want to work with here, but predominantly what you're going to produce is a detailed Gantt chart or migration plan or roadmap plan, looking at the current state and future state and how to get to the future state through a series of projects. Now, before I go into that roadmap, I just want to elaborate a little on what occurs in phase F. Remember that when you get to phase G, you're getting into what's referred to as implementation governance. And that means that we're now governing the architectural plan that we've given to a lower level to begin to work with. So within migration planning, there's a deliverable which comes out of that, which is quite important, and it's referred to as the architectural contract. Right? Now, way back in the beginning over here in the architectural vision, you may recall we produced two documents. One was the architecture vision document, and another one was the statement of architecture work. Within TOGAF, this is your first contract. Right? And that contract says, well, this is what we're going to do for you at an architectural level. As you go through that whole cycle, you use that, you arrive here at phase F, and you now begin to build what's actually defined as an architecture contract. Basically saying, well, here are the blueprints that we've identified. Here are all the changes we're going to do to the organization. And if you follow this plan, this is what you're going to get out of this exercise. So this is where the architecture contract comes in. Right? It starts here, and you don't finish it here, by the way. You finish it within the implementation governance phase, but you start developing it and elaborating on it at this level here. And that's where you sit down with your stakeholder, and now you begin to show them the plan, the time, effort, and cost required to deliver the architectural outcomes that they're looking for. Right, so we're now looking at some roadmaps, and if you recall in the views and viewpoints section, where stakeholders have different concerns, so you represent those concerns in different ways. So what I want to do is take you through two sort of views on how to look at a roadmap. One of them is one of the resources that you can refer to. As a matter of fact, both of them are. But this particular one looks at capabilities within an organization. And you can select them down here. And basically, you can look at your strategic scenarios. In other words, here's one scenario, here's a second scenario, here's a third scenario. In other words, those are different strategic options that you may want to consider. In other words, what will a business look like for each of those options? And then you can actually have a look here and you can say, well, in order to achieve that, I need an incremental change at this capability. I need a significant change at this capability. And then maybe I'll need a transformational change within that capability. And if you do that across all your capabilities, across your scenarios, you actually get to a nice summary which talks about the impact on the business from a dollars and an effort perspective. So that's a nice one for stakeholders to get a grasping of, right, so that they can have an understanding of the impact on the business and make the correct strategic decisions. Slightly more detailed is a roadmap, and that's also one of the additional artifacts that you've got that you can refer to. And really the roadmap that we have sort of breaks it down into a variety of sections. Right? So what we have is the start of the section, which is looking at the means to an end, right, in which we have dealt with in the previous module. You then look at objectives, which sit over here. You then look at things like principles and assumptions, which sit over here. Now, these all occur on one particular page. Down here you have current state, or as is, right? And what you have here is a to be state, which is over here. And what is the roadmap or the plan in order to bridge the gap between as is and to be? And we map these objectives and we show which projects or plans are going to be addressing those particular objectives. And guess what? We also introduce the risk management pieces here. And we show what risks are being dealt with by which particular plan. So have a closer look at the added document that we've included for you to work through. But this is really the types of outputs that you'll get from the migration planning section of the phase within the ADM. So remember, according to our views and viewpoints, these are actually artifacts, right? And they are additional resources that you can refer to attached to this particular topic. Finally, also, there is what we refer to as a war room outlet, which is a photograph. As you can see, it's something that is excellent for stakeholders to get a closer view of a roadmap, and something that we do in the migration planning phase. We produce all of these artifacts. We print them all out, put them on A0, string them across a wall, and we basically walk the stakeholders through that entire story. And sometimes we leave it on a wall, and you know, over the week or so, a number of business stakeholders will actually walk through that in their own time. So it's extremely good for change management and helping them buy into the architectural effort.